Hello, this is Roman Gabriel, and you are listening to The Grilling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to the Grueling Truth's Final Four special. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing great. Really getting down and enjoying the tournament this year and looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be some great basketball. Four well-deserved teams are playing, and I think you're going to really see some good basketball this weekend from all four teams.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this, I think any of the four could win. The thing that stands out to me is, and I think you agree with me just from our NCAA selection show, where I think we both picked Villanova to win it all, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so. I think by all accounts, on paper and by the way they played and maintained that bullseye on the back that I always talk about, I think that they've probably had as tough a road as anybody to get there, even though, you look at some of these teams they want to call underdogs or Cinderellas. But in light of the fact that the target's always been on Villanova or Xavier or Virginia or Kansas, that's the four big targets all year long. And for Villanova to survive taking shots at them all year long says a lot for the moxie of their game, their team, their makeup, their coaching. And if you're going to bet the farm, you got to bet it on Villanova. I mean, you have to on paper, but then the fun starts.
Yeah,
I'm not betting my farm, so
you don't have a farm, Steve. You live in L.A.
You're right, I do.
You might have had a farm when you were in Indiana. Do you ever get that?
I
Since
did.
We're both from Indiana, everybody always asks you if you live on a farm.
Yeah, they think my other car's a John. I have a sign on the back of my truck that says my other car's a John Deere. So, I just roll with it.
And then you always get the question, do you hunt? Because everybody assumes you hunt if you're from Indiana, too.
Yeah, I hunt cheeseburger shops.
Yeah, me too. I don't hunt.
I don't know what you hunt. Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead.
I hunt good basketball games is what I hunt.
Well, and the great thing is we got a lot of that in this tournament. And when you look at this, you've got the one seed Villanova. You've got their traditional powerhouse, Kansas. You've got the Michigan team who really played well all year. I mean, you're looking at a team that was, 24-7 in the regular season, but they got hot. They win the Big Ten championship. And then you've got the small school Loyola, which nobody really knew about until we got to the tournament, and they beat Miami, Tennessee, and start knocking these teams off. So you got a little bit of everything for everybody. And we're going to start off with the matchup between Loyola and Michigan, which to me is almost two teams that kind of mirror each other, especially the way they shoot the ball. I mean, Loyola is one of the best. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is what's really interesting before we get into the individual matchups, what's really cool about these matchups, you have the two number ones playing each other against the two perceived, and I want to use that word perceived dramatically, Cinderella teams playing against each other. I mean, the two teams were supposed to be there and the two teams that came out of nowhere to get there. So you're going to end up with a balance of, small or unexpected to expected. And I think that makes for a great Final Four regardless of who gets there.
Yeah, that makes for a great final.
It makes for a great final. But I like the way it accidentally paired up that Michigan and Loyola are playing. So you'll have one of each bracket, one of each concept in there. So we'll see really how much of a Cinderella story was Loyola or was Michigan, and how deserving was Villanova or Kansas to be ranked number one. I think it just makes for a lot of fun if you break it down that way. Now, get into the matchups. Let's go.
Yeah, we look at the game. Loyola is one of the best three-point shooting teams in America. They're led, of course, by Clayton Custer, who I think is one of the main reasons they're here. He shoots a whopping 45.4%, 130 attempts. Then you've got Ben Richardson, Lucas Williamson, both shoot better than 40%. And the Ramblers lineup is filled with guys who can make you pay from deep. They don't waste possessions. They don't turn it over. And if that sounds familiar, it should, because Michigan doesn't shoot it as well percentage-wise, but every player Michigan will put into his backcourt can hit an open shot. Michigan doesn't turn the ball over. They don't waste possessions. And I think Loyola has an edge on the ability to shoot the ball from deep, but Michigan has something the Ramblers don't have, and that's Xavier Simpson, or Javier Simpson. I don't know how he says it, but the Simpson kid, the best perimeter defender in the tournament. And I think that may give in the edge court or in the backcourt a slight edge to Michigan. But I think these two teams really mirror each other, that everybody here can shoot the ball. And I think this is going to come down to who defends the perimeter better.
I agree entirely. And I think that your difference here between Javier and Xavier is just due to your belief that Xavier University should still be in the Final Four.
They should.
And you can't get that word. They can't get that word out of your mouth. So anybody Javier is going to probably get called Xavier by you until this whole thing's over with.
Yeah, I got to say Xavier in the Final Four show. It's always been my dream, and it's
somewhere
never
you got to
happened.
say it. The way you plan them to be national champions all year long, you've got to go with Xavier instead of Javier.
Hey, you know what?
No
I'm not the guy that halfway through the season went on the Kent Sterling show in Indiana and came up with a big headline on the website. Steve Risley says the Hoosiers are going to make the tournament.
Yeah, well, I never said I was the brightest light bulb in the bunch, did I?
Neither one of us claim to be.
Well, you know what they say. You know what they say about opinions, don't you? We all have one, and yada yada yada.
Right.
So, yeah, we all have those. That was wishful thinking, and that was positive reinforcement to the players and the coaches, because it is my alma mater and it is my team. So I'm always going to root for Indiana. And I'm always going to see the glasses half full for Indiana. Just take that or leave that. If you don't like that, don't listen to it. Well, listen to our show, but just send bad mail about me. So just say I'm an idiot and don't know what I'm talking about, which is probably true. I think at this point between Michigan, I looked at the line real quick, and not what, those guys are more right than pretty much anybody in the world in Vegas. They've got Michigan as a 5-point underdog, but yet the pick.
5-point favorite, right? Favorite?
5-point favorite, yeah. UM -5, but the pick is to take Loyola. So there you go. I mean, that's right from Vegas. They say the odds are Michigan by 5. Now, how more balanced can that be? But the odds makers that are making those odds are telling you to take Loyola because they think it's going to be less than 5. Anything less than 5, it comes down to what I said all along. It comes down to the breaks you get, the opportunities you take and make off those breaks, and the last 2 or 3 minutes of a ball game where you put yourself in a position to take advantage of those breaks, and then luck, and then 51% luck. I still believe it's 51% luck. So if those breaks come or not, so that game's a pure toss-up, and we can analyze the difficulty of teams they played, and I think that is important to look at who they played coming into the tournament. But nonetheless, they all survived. So they've all, the competition grows every round you play. The competition gets tougher and tougher and tougher. And I think that Michigan and Loyola both have had the opportunity to fly until the last, probably Elite Eight under the radar screen before they really were getting a lot of the recognition. Now, I've kind of been a big Michigan fan all along just because I saw a lot of similarities by the way the run they started making toward the end of the Big Ten season. And into the tournament that we were making in 1981. We won our last 10 games in 1981 and virtually became pretty much unbeatable. And our lineup didn't change any. We didn't get any injuries. We just gelled at the right time. Everything that we were trying to be taught and we were trying to absorb and learn clicked. And I think that's what's happened for both Michigan and Loyola. Loyola is a team that absolutely plays with nothing to lose. They play no fear. And of all the 4 teams in the tournament, I would peg Loyola as a team that goes out the hardest every day to play to win and not play not to lose. Now, I don't think any team's playing, badly not to lose, but I think Loyola they have nothing to lose. So they can't play not to lose because they have nothing really to lose. They're farther along than anybody in the world would have thought they'd have got. Michigan, a similarity to Loyola, however, they still are a Big Ten team. They still are a team that's been to the Final Four several times, been to the Elite Eight, been a historically proud basketball program. So they have a little bit to lose there. But so it comes down to me, does Michigan get in a situation now where all of a sudden they're the favorite in the game? Even though they were number 3 seed, I think a lot of people kept thinking, oh, they'll fall apart because they're playing on emotion right now. So they haven't fallen apart. Against a team like Loyola who's going to come out and just going to really just let it all hang out for 40 minutes and play like they've played every game in that tournament, which is what's gotten them to this tournament. And they've gotten breaks. They've taken advantage of breaks. And, they've overcome a little bit of adversity with fouls and things and players in the game. But I can't pick this game. I mean, I'm going to sentimentally go with Loyola Chicago, but I had no dislike for Michigan. But I would just think it'd be fun to see them be there to play. And to fall back on their team that won, what was it, 61, I think they won? 62?
1963, Jerry Harkness beat University
63. I was going to go to 63 as my next pick.
Hey, and real quick, I can give a plug, if you could listen for a second, because I just wrote an article about the 1963 Loyola Ramblers, which will be out
I read that.
Saturday.
Yes.
You haven't read it yet, because I haven't put it out yet. So there.
I read the pre-copy that you had me prove before you put it out.
Yeah, okay, because you're going to be my
Don't
editor.
make me say that BS. Don't make me say that BS word again.
I don't have an editor from the University of Indiana ever. All right.
It's Indiana. It's Indiana University. It's Indiana University. University of Indiana is in Pennsylvania. Okay. So you need an editor from Indiana University.
And they both went as far in the NCAA tournament. Let's see.
There you go.
The thing that stands out to me here is this, and I think this is the whole
key
of the game.
Mike. Touche, well played.
Okay. But you got Loyola big man Cameron Krutwig. I mean, he's a load. Big dude, 6'9", 260. He can make moves on offense. He finishes at the rim. The Wolverines, of course, have Wagner, who's a very good player. But the thing I see here is there's not any depth with Loyola. If he was to get in trouble, they'd be in a lot of trouble. And if you look at Michigan, they've got another 7-footer in John Teskey, who's a decent player. Both teams have solid benches, but I think Krutwig being able to be aggressive and stay out of trouble is huge. And the other thing is this. If they take Krutwig out of the game and they can go really small, can Wagner defend that?
That's a good question. Wagner hasn't been a liability to Michigan's basketball team in any way, shape, or form, no matter what lineup's been thrown at him. He's been a producer every single game. His stock has risen dramatically in this tournament, maybe more so than any other player in the tournament, I think. But that's a good point. But I would have to say that's to be seen because he has not been a liability to this team, no matter what lineups on the court, how big or how small. He's got range offensively, and he's active defensively. And that's going to prevent teams from making those kinds of moves because you put somebody like that who's as active defensively as he is, and you're not going to be able to play small against him. You're going to have somebody in your battle, or he's just going to dominate the inside. And you're going to get one shot attempt, and you're going to be done. Or you're going to lose your opportunity to penetrate because he's going to be able to plug the middle. And, he's a kid who can score from all over the court. I mean, I've seen him drill threes. I've seen him hit 20-foot jumpers, and I've seen him play power underneath. So I think he is a deal breaker, and I don't know that you can actually do that against him effectively. Maybe you can, but I would say he will not be a liability to this basketball team if they go small.
I don't think he would either.
He's mobile.
It's just a question.
Yeah, he's mobile.
And the thing is this, I'm going to go with Loyola to win by a point. And the reason I'm going to do that is if you remember our selection show, John Einreinhofer, who I figure is listening right now, has been beating me up with this. He picked Michigan to beat Kansas in the national championship game. So there is no way in hell that we need Kansas and Michigan to play each other in the national championship game because that will never end.
Yeah, that, and we'll probably lose Romeo Langford from Indiana, too.
Yeah, well,
that probably won't help our cause there either. Well, we have a chance. If they fall on their Michigan, if Kansas gets there and falls on their face, we may have a chance. But, right now it's looking pretty good, but we hope not. But anyway, that's another story, another show.
All right, next
so
match.
I tend to agree. I think I'm just picking – I think this game is a total toss-up. I think it's going to come down to who plays the best 40 minutes of basketball because everything that's happened before this is not relevant anymore. It's all good fodder for discussion and analysis, but they're there. I mean, they've gotten there. No matter what their path was, they got there. And it's a fresh new 40 minutes, and whoever leaves it out or on the court between these two teams, because they both have strengths. I mean, you got to look at Beeline as a little bit stronger coach only because he's been there before.
Yeah, he's more of a known product.
More of a known product of what he can do. And I don't know enough about Loyola's coach. I don't know. I mean, he's been wonderful to the point to get him there, and he's obviously doing more right than he is wrong. But we know that Beeline has been there. We know he's going to know how to react to things, and he's not going to be as surprised by things. But I don't think it's enough of a thing to flip a game. I just think it's enough of a thing to make a break in a game that might change the outcome of the game, but not totally. You know, the fact I can't say that Beeline's a better coach, so therefore Michigan's going to win. Cannot say that. I would not say that. I think all 4 coaches are great coaches in their own right at this point. I think anytime you get a team to the Final Four, in as tough a term as this is to win, you're a good coach. You're a great coach for that year. You know, the problem now is you got to repeat it. But in a split-second decision, on an on-bench coaching decision, I might give that little edge to Beeline just because he's had to make those decisions before.
All right, that brings us to
so I'll go with Loyola too, but not because I dislike Michigan in any way, just because I just think Loyola's on a magical run, and I don't see it ending yet.
All right, that brings us to the next matchup, which was expected because it's 2 number 1 seeds, even though I think a lot of people had Kansas getting upset. You get the Villanova Wildcats against Kansas. I mean, Villanova is probably the best offensive team that we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years at least. Everybody can shoot the ball. Kansas is the exact same way, though. I think the stat I saw on Villanova is they make like 11 or 12 threes a game, and Kansas loves to shoot the 3 ball. They've taken the 11th most threes in the country this year and have hit 40% as a clip as a team. Now, we talked about Villanova being the best team in this tournament, but the thing that stands out to me is if you're going to be the best team is to have a night like Villanova had in 1985 against Georgetown where you shoot 60, 70%, you don't miss anything, you win the game, and all 3 of the teams in here, especially Kansas maybe, are capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think of the 4 number 1 picks, I think anybody would have smartly said the ultimate matchup would be to see Kansas and Villanova play. I think they were clearly the 2 best, well-rounded number 1 seeds, and this is a clash of the Titans in this tournament this year. I know you're a strong Xavier fan, and I'm a Xavier fan. And Virginia, I think, wasn't ready to, carry the mantra of the number 1 seed at this point. I think they didn't quite understand what's at stake here, the extra weight it throws on your shoulders when you carry that. And I think Xavier would fit into that threesome. But I think the 2 best number 1 seeds are playing it off against each other. And I think that on paper, and I think you said it eloquently, the Villanova is the class of this tournament. We've said that all along. We believe that. They have the most firepower. They have the strongest tournament coach in the game right now. I see no glaring weaknesses. I tell you what I'd be doing if I was Kansas right now. I'd be living at Hinkle Fieldhouse right now. And I'd go be finding out what Butler did twice to beat Villanova this year.
I can tell you, really they shot out of their minds in both games. And that's what we're talking about. The thing is this, Kansas is a team that more often than not does shoot the ball that well.
Right, but historically what I would say to rebut what you said, not rebut it, just to continue the discussion, is that somewhere Butler found a way to get the good shots that they can hit out of their minds. So they found a twink somewhere in their defense that was allowing them to get the high percentage shots. And they did it twice. So fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There is something there in Villanova that Butler found out. To say that one team's going to come out and shoot 70% once, but to do it twice against the number 1 team twice and defeat them twice, they found something out.
Yeah, and they've beaten them each of the last 3 or 4 years, too, at least once. And the thing about Butler is Butler on offense, they don't play particularly fast. And the thing about Kansas, they don't either. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between Kansas and Butler, only the fact that Kansas is more talented.
Yeah, I agree entirely. If I was Kansas, I'd just be staring at that Butler film and finding out what did Butler find out over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and especially this year. And Villanova's lost 4 games this year. They lost 4 games the entire year.
Yeah, and they lost 2 to Butler.
2 to Butler. I just would be camping in Indianapolis.
Well,
outside
and
the parking lot in
thing,
and looking at their films.
The other thing Butler did when they beat him is Butler hit the boards really hard. And the thing about Villanova, if they have a weakness, I mean, they play good defense, but if there's any weakness at all, they're not particularly strong on the boards. And when you look at it, Kansas has got some big boys up there. They got a 7-footer, 6'8", and I mean, they predominantly play a 4-guard lineup. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him have the 7-footer and the 6'8" guy in the game at the same time. And I think they could really cause some problems here. And you've got Devontae Graham, who is a hell of a player, 17 points, 7 assists a game, averages just over 1 turnover. I mean, that's a kid that can actually match up with Jalen Brunson. I don't think he's near as good as Brunson. I think Brunson may be the best college player in the country. But when you look at him, Devontae Graham is pretty much as close as you can get to Jalen Brunson with a point guard.
Yeah, in Kansas, in my eyes, watching them play, we see a lot of Big Ten basketball, a lot of ACC, and a lot of Big East, and then we see the Pac-12 a lot out here. But Kansas is a team that's sneakily good. They look wiry and thin if you look at their players, but they're a physical ball club. They play hard, they come at you, and they have enough depth with size to speed. They can match you up any way you want to play. And I think that I don't think in any way, shape, or form that Villanova will underestimate them and say, hey, we're bigger, tougher, stronger. But I think that Kansas is going to give them as physical a game as they want to play. And I think you're right. Kansas needs to really work on controlling the tempo, because having reviewed a little bit, not to great extent, the Butler-Villanova games, it seemed that Butler's an incredibly good team in controlling tempo of the game. And maybe that's the chink that threw Villanova off a little bit, was they weren't able to control the tempo against Butler. So, but I would not underestimate the physicality of Kansas, looking at the beefiness and the size of a Villanova versus the wiriness and speed of a Kansas. I see Kansas duke it out physically in the last 3 or 4 games here.
Well, see,
so I think this is go ahead.
I think Villanova wins the game because of one thing. I think the matchup, the narrative is that you're going to see Graham against Brunson. That remains to be seen, because I think with Brunson actually can play in the low post. I mean, when they beat Xavier, the problem was he was posting up J.P. McCura, the guys that Xavier had that play guard. And, of course, most guards don't really have a lot of defensive post moves. So I think what you see is you see Brunson go down and start posting up. When they do that, I think you're going to have to take Graham off of him, and you're going to see Kansas switch to Newman or Vic on him to try to guard him. And I don't think they're going to be able to. And I think Brunson's going to back the Jayhawks down to the basket. He's going to score. He's going to kick the ball out for threes. And I think in the end, that's the difference in this game.
Yeah, good observation. The only thing I'll dispute with you is that I don't put these games on any one player to win or lose a game. Brunson's not going to be the sole reason Villanova wins this game, because anything you give to Brunson, you're taking away from somebody else.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this. If you post him up, that sets Brunson up to get his 8 to 10 assists and still get his 20 points. And the thing about Brunson is he's a guy that makes everybody around him better, which there aren't a lot of guys like that playing basketball today or at any point. It's like Larry Bird. Yeah, you can hold Larry Bird to 16 points, but he may have 20 assists to go with it and 12 rebounds.
Bird was special. You can't love Larry Bird.
I'm not. No, I'm just giving that as an example.
I know you're not. I know you're not. But yeah, Bird was a magical player, like Magic and Jordan, who could do whatever they wanted to with the basketball. There aren't a lot of those people in existence in a long time. So
I'm just saying it's comparable because he can get points for other guys.
Let me ask you this. Since you've obviously you're a more Big East basketball fan. How often has Brunson gone down and done this, what you're asking him to do? Has he played the post a lot? Has he gone down in there a lot?
When he's had to win the game, like I said, he beat Xavier twice with it. And they beat Xavier fairly easy both times.
Okay, and I think I personally, I know you don't like to hear this, but I think Kansas looks like a better basketball team than Xavier across the board.
Way.
Okay, I know, and I don't want to get in that debate because one's playing and one's not, so we can't get in. And we're talking, yeah, okay. But if you only put somebody down there because it's a necessity, rather than then he's not going to be 100% comfortable down there. And
he's 100% comfortable down there.
I got to think himself is smart enough to anticipate something like that happening and have a remedy for that. We'll see. I won't put the game on any one player. I don't think college basketball is designed that way. I think the NBA is purely designed that way. One player, Kobe Bryant, can score 80 points in a game and beat you individually, or LeBron can come out and score 50, or that game's designed that way. But college basketball is still designed.
College basketball, if you look 1988, Danny Manning comes into the Final Four against Duke. They're supposed to get beat by Duke. They were supposedly a Cinderella that year. Danny Manning put him on his back and carried him across the finish line. He was the best player in the country. We've seen guys do this. I mean, we saw Mateen Cleaves. Right. Mateen Cleaves didn't even play in the NBA. If he did, it wasn't that long. He wasn't a great player, but he was a great college player. I think Brunson will be a really good pro also because he is versatile like that. I think he can control the game. I don't think he has to score 35 points. I just think the threat of him down there could make Kansas use a lineup that they don't want to use.
I think that's a valid argument. I mean, I know when we looked at it at North Carolina in 1981, they had Al Wood, All-American, Sam Perkins, All-American, James Worthy, All-NBA, All-Everything. And, we had to find a way to defend all three of them.
Yeah, but you had Isaiah Thomas, too. That would be Jalen Brunson.
As legend will tell you, he guarded all three of them single-handedly, and he and I combined for 26 points in the championship game.
I know.
And those were the two factors.
It was all you and Isaiah.
Isaiah, no doubt. It was me and his 26 points and him guarding all three of those guys underneath that got that done, as well as scoring 21
I thought you guarded
of the 26
those three
points
guys.
We scored together.
Yeah, but the point is this. When you have a guy that is a special player, and I think Brunson is, anytime you're talking about a guy being one of the 2 or 3 best players in college basketball, that's a special player.
Yeah.
And whenever you have a special player, he's capable of doing that.
Sure, he is.
And
he is.
This is
but
the
I
other
also
thing.
know if you have a special.
And people forget this, though. When you watch the 81 championship game, I mean, Isaiah Thomas was the best player on the floor, but that night, when you look at defense and the way he played offensively, I think he had 8 or 9 assists. Jimmy Thomas was huge, and he outplayed the guys that were supposed to be so good.
Huh? Jimmy was 6'4" and played like he was 6'10".
Yeah.
That night. He did, because Landon ended up fouling out too. And, Kitchell never came back in after the first 4 minutes. And, it was, we all filled our roles. So really it comes down to the role players that are playing there, and it's a great example of 81. I came in 5 minutes into the game, and then Jimmy and I split pretty much the rest of the time. Those were only 7 players that played in the game. And Kitchell played the first 3 minutes, and that was it. And we all filled roles. I mean, and it's while we want to say our stars are going to lead us, they are, but they've got to have help. And we'll see. I think I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I'm not going to put the game on that because.
Oh, I think the game's a toss-up. I think this. I think Kansas matches up extremely well with them.
I think more so than Loyola and Michigan. This is a game of who gets the best break at the end of the game. I think this game's going to come right down to the last 2 or 3 shots of the game is what I think is going to happen. I do not think this game's going to be a blowout.
Well, I think the only way you get a blowout.
If it is a blowout, it's a blowout to Villanova.
Yeah, I think the only way. The only way you get a blowout in either one of these games is just if one of these teams go cold.
Folds, yeah. Which I don't see them, but you don't know. That's why we play the game.
I mean, you might show up the first couple rattle out, then you start pressing, and things go to hell.
Right. And Kansas is going to have to fight tooth and claw for everything they get. Villanova has the ability to blow it out, but I don't think Kansas is going to let them do that. But if I've got to bet the farm again, I'm going to bet on Villanova. But I'm, again, the line there is Nova by 5.5. Take Nova. So that's what the people who are right more times than not, because they don't want to pay for the lights being on in Las Vegas. So they get idiots that bet to pay for those lights. But they're saying it's 5.5-point spread, but take Nova with the spread. So they're saying it's got more of a chance of being an easier game for Nova than a difficult game, where they're saying the other game with Loyola and Michigan, it's Michigan by 5, but I'd bet Loyola on that. That means they're saying that's too close to call, basically.
Yeah.
Is what they're saying. 5 points is 2 possessions. And that's 2 breaks. That's 2 lucky shots going in.
I think both of these games
I think it's one of the best Final Fours. It's one of the best Final Fours we've had in a long time, because we have such a great mix of great basketball team, great coaching. We have the underdogs, the perceived Cinderellas. And I just want to add, I don't think anybody's a Cinderella that gets in the Final Four. You're no longer Cinderella. You are a bona fide team who's earned the right to be there. And you've earned it through your work and effort and your play and your cohesiveness and all the factors involved in getting to the Final Four. There's no Cinderellas anymore.
Yeah, you can get lucky, get hot, and win a game or two, but when you're winning 4 straight
You know who's
games,
a Cinderella? University of Maryland at Baltimore County is probably designated as a Cinderella.
Yeah.
They won their one game. They caught a great team on a bad night. They capitalized on it, and then they disappeared. That's what Cinderella did. At midnight, boom, everything went back to pumpkins and mice. And, Prince Charming had to go find the girl that fit the slipper.
Because the thing about that team is they caught lightning in a bottle, and it shocked them, too, because it shocked them so bad. They were so happy that they weren't ready to play against Kansas State 2 days later.
And good for them. They did the impossible. It was impossible till now. They did the impossible. But I don't think there's a Cinderella
outside
in this
of whoever wins the national championship, Maryland and Baltimore County is going to be the second biggest story.
The next most talked
about
team, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Sister Jean, one way or another. Sister Jean and Baltimore, Maryland, and then the national champion. So that's what we'll be taking away from this year.
Well, unless Loyola's the national champion.
And the fact that unless they're the national champion, then it's all in one bundle. And the fact that in your eyes that Xavier was the most.
It's Xavier, not Xavier. It's Xavier.
Xavier was, Javier for me.
It's Xavier.
Because it's all said and done.
It's Xavier.
So I think you're in for some, 3 great basketball games coming up. But I think we both agree we both like Loyola Chicago for no uncertain reason, because it's a toss-up game. And I think we both like Villanova because we think that the kind of effort that they put forward, they're more accustomed to. They've worn the bullseye on their back as number 1 most of the season. They've carried it well. Butler has been the only team to be able to figure them out. And I'd say one win could be classified as an upset or a fluke. Beating them twice in 1 year is not. They figured something out.
Yeah.
The 2 times they figured something out that nobody else has figured out yet.
And I'll tell you, if you go watch those games, Butler plays the way Kansas does. That is the only thing that gives me pause in picking Villanova. I think this is a really bad matchup for Villanova. But I think they're going to get it in a close game. For them, yeah. Of the 4 teams left in there, it's the worst possible matchup they could get is to have to face them. But maybe that bodes well if they get by them here. Then they're the power team to pick in the championship game Monday night. So but the great thing about it is it's one game, and who knows? I mean, as you know, a lot of things can happen.
Yes, yep. Like I said, I've said all along. Any readings, anything I put out there, I said luck is 51% of this thing. All 4 of these teams have talent. They have coaching, or they wouldn't be where they are. They have cohesiveness. They have team unity. It boils down to who's going to get the lucky break at the critical time. Who's going to get the 4th foul that was a bad or questionable call? Who's going to get the sloppy shot that goes in that, oh, my God, where did that come from? In the last 2 minutes of the game that gives you that 2 possession spread versus a 1 possession spread. Who's going to make the on-court error? And then are the other team going to be able to capitalize on that error? Because it's only an error if the other team capitalizes on it. If they don't capitalize on it, it's really not an error. It's just a turnover. So it's really nail-biting time. And I think, like I said, I'm going to really sit back and enjoy all 3 of these games. And whoever comes out of this is going to be, somebody who's worked the hardest to win this thing this year. There's not one clear-cut favorite other than Villanova would be the number one favorite, but not a clear-cut favorite by all means, because Kansas can knock them off very easily.
All right, Steve, we're going to do a preview show for the championship game Sunday night.
Yes, indeed.
All righty. What time you want to do that? 8 Eastern? Be 5 your time? Golfing?
Oh, God, it's 85 degrees and sunny out here right now. I'll probably be on the golf course.
Well,
but no, I'll make it. No, that's fine. 5:30 is fine. We'll do it at 5:30, which is what, 8:30?
8:30 Eastern time. As you guys noticed, I said 8. He just moved us back 30 minutes, so he had the time to get home after the golf round.
Yeah, got to get home. Got to walk the dogs real quick, and got to go back to the pool and cool off from the golf. And life's a bitch out here in LA. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it sounds rough. It's rained here.
It's snowing again in Indiana.
No, we got like 5 inches of snow Saturday, and then it's rained every day since, I think.
All right. Well, yeah, move west,
beautiful.
My friends. Move west.
Beautiful.
So you don't need a lot of yard because you're always out in the mountains or in the ocean or skiing up in Big Bear or down on Hollywood Boulevard checking out the scenery, one or the other. But, hey, on a serious note, I just want to recognize, Indiana, for those of you that pay attention.
Yeah.
Indiana lost a player this year, just this week. Daryl Thomas was a very integral part of the 1987 National Championship team, a coach, a player that had somewhat of a love-hate relationship with Coach. I mean, Coach loved him, but sometimes some of the things seemed to fall on Daryl's shoulders. But was a gutsy player who came through and always played the game with a smile on his face. Passed away of a heart attack Wednesday morning. And it's a true loss when it happens to any team. But obviously that's a little personally for me because there's always a fraternity of everybody that plays and wins a national championship. There's a tighter fraternity with the teams that you play with when you win from your own school and other players from your own school, whether you know them personally or not. I'd had interactions with Daryl and talked to him several times, but was not necessarily a close friend of his. But it's a loss, and it's a loss for whenever it happens to any university or any college or any school, where we lose the life of a person who dies too young for whatever reason. So say your prayers for the people that you care about and love, and always be respectful and wish and know that life is very fragile and very short, and we yuck it up on these programs. But, just want to say a word for Daryl and his family. We're all thinking about you for the IU basketball program right now. It's a tough loss for them. And also the women's basketball team in Indiana is playing for the NIT championship come Friday night. And that's a real benchmark for that team and a program that's on the rise. Now we can just get the guys to follow up. Maybe Romeo Lanker will be the decision that will turn the program around. But we're done with Indiana right now. This is all about the 4 teams playing. But I want to say that about Daryl. He's a good kid, a good man, was coaching high school basketball in Chicago. And we lost a good one. As we often do, sadly.
I believe he was the one that had the assist to Smart on the game and the shot that won the national championship, too.
And Coach calls that one of the greatest sacrifices ever made. He had scored 20 points in that game and easily could have taken the ball to the hole and tried to be the hero himself. But so smartly, as Coach Knight teaches his players to be smart, of course, I'm the exception to every rule, he kicked it out to Keith, and Keith, made one of the most famous jumpers in the history of the NCAA tournament. Obviously, it's a knockoff a higher-ranked Syracuse team and a good basketball team that they were at that point in time. So it's a loss, and, we wish everybody Godspeed to the Thomas family and to Indiana basketball at this point in time.
Most definitely. All right, guys. Yeah. You can hear us 8:30 Sunday night NCAA championship game preview. May have a guest or two. We'll see. I guess we'll have to have John Einhoffer on if Kansas is playing Michigan. Nah, hell, we'll just have him on if Villanova's playing Loyola.
Okay, that would be funny. I may step aside for that one. Just right. Be on here just to get you guys riled at each other.
We can have him on here with us. I know John's listening to the show. So, John, if Kansas or Michigan, especially Michigan, loses, we're going to have you on the show Sunday night. If they both win, you're never getting on with us ever again, including next year when we do the preview show. So
that's that Javier thing. That's that Javier thing there. He's not going to let it die. The Xavier should be national champion.
Yeah.
Dude, they didn't get there.
I know. And then we lost our coach.
I know.
What the hell? And now we've probably lost our shot at having Bill Murray on our show.
I know. That's what killed me. We didn't get Bill Murray.
They need to just name Luke Murray, Bill's son, the head coach at Xavier, so we still got a shot at him.
That would be great.
Even though I think they're going to name Travis Steele the head coach because he's the guy that's done all the recruiting and got guys like Blewett, McCura, and all them. So I assume.
Are we going to spend the next hour doing a Villanova's post wrap up season right now, or we schedule that for
Villanova?
Does that come later?
You mean Xavier?
Let's talk to Villanova progress or Villanova Xavier. I'm sorry, Xavier Villanova.
See, you're confused.
Teams.
You know that Xavier should still be there, and we should talk about Villanova wrapping up their season. But we're going to wrap up this show. Remember,
Mike.
What?
Goodbye, Mike.
Remember,
Goodbye.
You can follow Steve. If you don't want me to tell people where they can interact with you, I won't.
No, please do. I love getting interacted with.
It's too early in the day to get that dirty, Steve. All right, guys.
Not in California. Things are different out
here. I've heard that, especially in San Francisco, but you're nowhere near there, right?
We're in L.A.
Okay.
It ain't much better.
All right. But you can follow Steve at Steve Risley 34, correct? Or is it S Risley?
S Risley 34.
At S Risley 34, at Grueling Hoops, if you have any questions about the games coming up. Indiana basketball, Romeo Langford, or just life in general, Steve knows everything. If he can't answer those questions, you can ask me because I know anything he doesn't at Grueling Truth. You can catch all of our shows. You go to iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Don't forget you can go to iTunes and download the Grueling Truth app so you get all of the shows. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.